Hey y'all, it's Girl Who Swirls, Christelyn Karazin. Welcome Beyond Black and White Elite and Swirl Squad. Woo woo! Woo woo! I have a very, very special guest with me. Her name is Janice, and we actually discovered each other because she found me on YouTube. And it's so amazing that you can connect with people on YouTube and we've never met.
No, this is the first time we've met.
I know, and we've spent literally 3 days together. 3 days we have been hanging together. I'm going to share something with you. You have a YouTube channel, so really quickly tell people about your YouTube channel.
My YouTube channel is called Dignity, Human Rights in Daily Life, and what I do is I feature stories that illustrate the 30 articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights through interviews, stories, and feature series.
That's wonderful. And you just recently interviewed me, and I'm so honored. Thank you. You guys wouldn't believe this though, but she's 62 years old and interracially married. So you were born in the 60s.
I was born in 1955, the year of Emmett Till's murder, and 3 weeks after Rosa Parks' arrest.
Wow.
So thank you, Rosa Parks.
So you were born right smack in the middle of everything. You saw both John and Bobby Kennedy assassination, Malcolm X assassination, Martin Luther King assassination.
I remember all of those clearly.
One thing also during that time was black people became very militant.
Yes.
And very I'm black and I'm proud.
Yes.
So when all this was happening, what were you observing and what was going in your mind at the time?
What was going on in my mind was fear, because I saw on television how blacks were being attacked with dogs and hoses. And I remember giving a speech at a bar association about my experience growing up during the Civil Rights Movement and how it instilled fear in me, and it taught me that there were good white people and bad white people. It was just a mess. However, I've also in the backdrop of my upbringing were songs of protest, songs of unity, speeches by Martin Luther King, speeches by Malcolm X, and the things that are happening today, I believe that they are rolling in their graves. You mentioned the black militant, the black power movement. That came on the heels of the Civil Rights Movement. The purpose of the Civil Rights Movement was to bring equality for blacks who would consider second-class citizens, treated as second-class citizens. Then the civil rights in the black power movement came on the heels of that, because blacks had to it had to be instilled in blacks a new mindset of being proud of who we are.
Yes.
As black people, not being ashamed of our color, although we were still ashamed of our hair and straightening it.
And there was still colorism was rampant.
Colorism, and it still is.
Yes, absolutely. So you were in the midst of all of this, and your parents. What did your parents tell you about white people?
Well, I remember first of all, my first friend outside of my family was a little white boy who lived upstairs named Andy. And I remember one day, I was about 5 years old, and my father, out of the blue it seemed, came up to me and said, "You're black." No, yeah, you're black. And I was like, being that I could only think concretely, I was confused.
Because you were like, no, Dad, have you seen the Crayola book?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about. So I'm like, if I'm black and Andy is white, what does that make Judy? And it was at that point that I decided that Puerto Ricans were great people.
Judy is great. I love it.
I had to make sense. The sense of a 5-year-old is so concrete that and I knew my colors. I know that the blue Crayola crayon matches the sky and the green one matched the grass, and I thought I matched the brown one.
Right, but your dad was telling you, no, you do like black.
You're black, and don't let the white man, why did he say that? Brainwash you. I don't know what he was talking about, but I said, okay.
Right.
So what's interesting is that being that I grew up in East Harlem and in the projects, my father had an MBA in finance. But when he went to get jobs on Wall Street, he had to use the service entrance.
Wow.
And so when he finally did get a job, it was at a department store as an accounting clerk. But people would want to look and see, who is this man with the MBA, the black man with the MBA that was working as a clerk. So he found that humiliating. But they wanted us to have exposure. So we would go to Broadway plays. He taught us fine dining at the fanciest restaurants in Manhattan. I didn't even know Harlem had restaurants until I was in my 20s. And I felt that he was holding out on me because the food at Wilson's, which is defunct now, was really good. He also wanted us to have black professionals as our role models. So we would travel miles by bus to get to a clinic that was founded by black men, black doctors. And the reason why they founded that particular clinic was because they wanted a HIP clinic. That's an insurance program. And HIP said, no, black people get sick too much. So they decided to pool their resources together, open up this clinic, and accept HIP. And that was the insurance that my father had. And so growing up, I only knew black doctors in real life. Wow. There was Dr. Kildare and Van Casey, but they were on television, so they weren't real. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I was 19 when I consciously saw my first white doctor. And I was surprised. I was like,
oh wow, they come in white.
And I was wondering if he was qualified to be a doctor.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because I caught myself and said, well, this is what white people probably think about blacks.
Right. When they're like, wait a minute, let me see your credentials. Mm-hmm. So you were exposed to, the finer things, but your life was pretty much black, blackity black, but like on the upper class end of, even though you lived in a project, it was very education centered. It was more out of just discrimination that you lived in the projects, and not because your parents were undereducated or anything like that. It was
actually, my father made a conscious effort.
Really?
He did, because he knew that he said that he could control the rent that way because it was tailored to your income. It's this way. He would save the difference that he would put into it. And he told me specifically, he said, I didn't buy a house because if I bought a house, I wouldn't be able to send you to private school. I wouldn't be able to give you piano lessons, dance lessons, show you the finer things in life, because we went away every summer. Wow. And we had summer camp, we had sleepaway camp, we had piano lessons, dance lessons. We went to parochial school growing up.
Wow.
So I just had an experience that I thought everybody had as children. And that's why he did that, because he would have the disposable income to give us what he wanted us to have.
And that's a brilliant strategy. You are interracially married.
Yes.
You met your husband while you were a professor. Mm-hmm. Did you know at the time, did you ever dream you would be married to a white man?
No, because my first crush was my pediatrician. He was fine. Oh my gosh. And I always dreamed of marrying a man who was black so that I could enjoy those sideburns when they turn gray.
Oh my gosh, that was the reason why you wanted to marry black. So you could have gray, silver fox sideburns.
Oh my gosh, those things were, my favorite so much.
So but you didn't picture yourself.
No.
Was it after all of the things you just told me?
Mm-hmm.
About what your father said, about reminding you pretty much of your place in the world. Mm-hmm. Did you experience a dissonance when?
Yes, because none of the black men, boys, teenagers, any of them that I met were comparable to my father in values. I would say I could count on one hand. There are 3 people that come to mind that are the exception. But the vast majority of black people that I came across, they just didn't fit the bill. They just didn't fit the standard.
Did you ever think to yourself, maybe I need to lower my standards?
Well, it's interesting because of the civil rights movement and what I was exposed to growing up. I always felt that if I ever decided to get involved with a white man, he would have to be, what's the phrase that came to mind? I can't think of it.
I know, he's like a super white. Like
he's
gonna be like right. He's gonna be like better, you know. He has to play the white tax.
An asset to his race, for lack of a better term. But that was the concept. But I really wasn't thinking about it. It wasn't a serious consideration. But I decided to put it in God's hands. I wrote down all the characteristics that I was looking for in a husband that had nothing to do with race. It had to do with the values, the loyalty, the love, the sense of humor, support.
Yes.
Communication, and forgot about it for decades. And then when I came back to New York, because I lived in Boston for a while, went to law school there and lived there for several years, came to New York and I said, I'm going to put this in God's hands because I've been making all these bad choices. I'm going to work on being a better person myself. And I'm going to leave myself open and let God choose for me. So when I started working at this college, I was struck by the looks of this one guy. Whew. But I would never let him see that I was looking at him. I couldn't let him know that I noticed him. And then one day we started working at the same campus because there were several campuses, and he said, I remember her from the Dean's List reception. So I was like, yes, this was the guy I wound up marrying. But it wasn't easy in the beginning. I was self-conscious.
Yeah. You mentioned that he tried to hold your hand, and you tensed up a little bit, let go. What was going through your mind when you let go of his hand?
That there was something taboo about what I was doing.
Yeah. Were you afraid that other people would judge you or say something?
Well, I knew other people were, because I live in a mixed community. Some people call it a white community, but where I live is diverse. But the people of color in particular, well, actually, I take that back. Everybody where I live they would look. The people in my building would look.
Well, because this was like the late 90s.
Right, because I'm a boomer, so this was the early 90s. Wait. Yes, by the time I met him, we met in 97. Yes.
Yeah.
And so the people that were giving us the looks were the people who are a generation ahead of me. So they had a totally different exposure.
Right. It just wasn't, if you thought it wasn't done, it was really not done. Like that would get you, strung up. That would get you into some serious trouble.
You wind up hanging from a tree.
Right. So what advice would you give to women who are boomers, who are single? Maybe they've never married, or they are divorced and they're ready to live their life 2.0, but they're a little bit afraid. What would you tell your sisters of this generation, of the generation that you were in? What advice would you give them?
Your happiness is up to you. I know women, my contemporaries, who are professionals, very accomplished, but they're single, never been married, because they limited themselves. I would say just because you're black does not mean you have to live with limitations. That's something that has been handed to us as a legacy, and even though King and Malcolm X fought for us to overcome that, socially we can do it, but until you believe you deserve to have happiness, it's not going to happen. So you have to just forget about worrying about the community, the so-called black community. I remember when I got engaged, someone said, well, what about, he mentioned something about the black family, preservation of the black family. And I was like, it's not my fault.
Right.
That black men don't have the right to.
Be like Tiffany had it. She said, that's not my job.
No.
That's not my, I don't know about that, but that's not my job.
It's not.
And finally, you are in the pink pill, and
Yes.
you're in the private group.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about the pink pill and the private group? And for anybody who's like on the fence about getting it or not really knowing what it's about, you're actually in the group. What would you say?
I am
about
in
that?
the group, and I told Chris when I took the pink pill course, and I'm still working through it. It reminded me of the things that I learned and just forgot. And I forgot them because of being a boomer, and the women's rights movement had a lot to do with that. But that's a discussion for another time. But it has made an impact because we had to prove ourselves as women in the workplace. And so we took on the persona of being more masculine with the, the little bow tie. At
Oh
the
my
neck.
gosh, I remember that, and the shoulder pads.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
God,
And
please don't ever let that fashion trend ever come back. It needs to be buried and dead forever and ever.
right, but it was, we were like shedding the female persona just to have our voice, to have a place at the table, and that's basically what that was about. But now, we're in a different time. We've evolved since then, and there's no need to feel as if you have to be a man to make it in professionally. Although you do have to know how to hold your own.
Absolutely, you need to have that balance.
Right.
What about the private community? Has it helped you?
The private community, it's been an education for me because when I discovered Beyond Black and White, I didn't realize that these issues were still going on.
Yeah.
I am appalled that there's still the colorism issue. I'm appalled that black men don't like us.
Yeah, you go onto YouTube. That's the downside. That's the shadow side of YouTube, is that, wow, you see a lot of, you wish you might have never passed down that rabbit hole. You just wish it never would have happened.
And when my husband and I got married, that's when I realized that I was grading black men on the curve. I was giving them a pass that I would never thought to give a white man.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, you have to set a standard and stick with it.
Across the board.
Across the board.
The same things, expectations, because you said yourself that he had to be super white boy if you were going to consider him.
Mm-hmm.
But why wouldn't you use that same grade, that same level of expectation and demand from a black man? And part of Ralph Richard Banks' book, Is Marriage for White People,
Right.
is that you need to have that standard, because then the men will rise to that standard. And I'll be really happy when I see that happen.
Yes.
Collectively.
Even some black men, my contemporaries, professionals, they said to me something to the effect of what the black woman is going to do for me. And it was confusing because my father, unbeknownst to him, was grooming me to be married to a white man because of the values that they have.
Yes.
I mean,
I can totally understand that. My father as well.
yeah.
Because just the work ethic, the value of family, of taking care of your children, responsibility. And gotta say that caveat, not all.
Right.
Don't be trolling us. But the statistics bear that out. And
They
so it is what it is. And so you have to face the reality. And so women of your generation, of the boomer generation, it's time to abandon that, whatever it's holding you back.
Yeah, that mindset has got to go.
Yes.
It's got to go.
Well, Janice, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And this has been such an enlightening conversation, and I hope that you guys have gotten something out of it. ladies, the boomer women who are in this group, the boomer men in this group, chime in. Let me know what you think. Let me know, do you have trouble your generation because of the history and where you grew up in your worldview, interracially dating and marrying, regardless if you're white, black, or other? Have you had challenges? And tell us what those are, and we'll make sure that we connect with you in the comment section. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I will also put the link to Janice's channel, so take a look at that, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!